My husband was frigid and pathologically germophobic. Not only did I have to file a formal request for our once-a-month conjugal visit, but before he would even touch me I had to disinfect myself inside and out, 3 full cycles. Yet on my 30th birthday I found a whole box of used condoms tucked into his passenger side pocket, along with a bottle of cloying sweet teen perfume. When I confronted him, he spun the steering wheel with practiced calm, never even blinking. Lent the car to Adrian the day before yesterday. I said nothing. Instead I texted his executive assistant and learned that a new receptionist had started at the company. The assistant's voice dropped to a whisper. "Ma'am, I've seen Sterling kiss her feet. They share the same takeout box, and word is she's pregnant. I'm only telling you because I owe you. I can't watch you stay in the dark." The moment the call ended I drafted the divorce papers, calm and steady. "Julian, we're done. Before we go on, subscribe to this channel and comment where you're tuning in from." Next morning I rode the elevator straight to the penthouse of Sterling. Victor took one look at me and went white. I glanced toward Julian's office. Documents carpeted the floor. The same Julian who used to incinerate a jacket if a stranger brushed his sleeve was now pinning a woman to the carpet, kissing her like the world was ending. A soft moan drifted out. The girl lifted her gaze and met mine, bold and unafraid. I recognized those eyes. 2 months ago she'd been a jittery intern who bowed frantically after bumping into me and knocking over my purse. "Sorry to trouble you," I murmured to Victor, then shoved the door wide. The bang as it hit the stopper made them jerk apart. I'd expected Julian to panic, to explain, to flush with guilt, something. He did none of that. He only frowned, puzzled. "Didn't I tell you? You have to change into sterile coveralls before you enter my office." Keeping his space immaculate had always trumped ever. Why crisis in our marriage, and I'd played along. Now it was clearly pointless. The girl's perspiration was mingling with his, and he didn't mind at all. Chloe's clothes were disheveled, her face flushed. "Sterling, please don't misunderstand." I tripped while delivering files and Sterling caught me. She spoke to me, but her eyes checked Julian's reaction. 7 years younger than I, she was fresh, vivid, and utterly reckless. I ignored her and slapped the freshly printed divorce papers across Julian's cheek. The pages still smelled of toner, a scent I knew he despised. In our home everything had to pass through a bath of disinfectant first. Julian glimpsed the papers on the floor and sighed in weary tolerance. "Vivian, I already told you, those things are Adrian's. Can you please stop the drama?" Adrian was his cousin and one of the few people he called a friend, but he'd forgotten one detail. Adrian had left the country 3 months ago, and Julian never let anyone borrow his car, too dirty. Still, I have my own form of germophobia. An unfaithful marriage feels filthy to me, too. "Sign it and we're free." I didn't budge. He laughed in angry disbelief. "Why push it? You know my parents and grandfather will never approve. Since our wedding I haven't looked at another woman, this is the first time. Just do what a Sterling wife is supposed to do, pretend you didn't see. Is that so hard?" Apparently I was expected to be grateful he'd limited himself to one affair. He turned to Chloe, voice suddenly gentle. "Go rest. Don't worry, I'll handle this." Instead of leaving, Chloe stepped closer, tangled hair falling away to reveal a necklace of love bites. "Sterling, don't be angry with Sterling. It's all my fault." Of course it was her fault. Did she want me to console her for breaking up my marriage? My palm connected with her cheek before she could finish. "Your turn to speak hasn't come." She staggered, eyes round with shock, tears brimming. Julian and Victor, frozen in the door. I had never seen me lose control. I'd stayed ice cold even when treating violent patients. Chloe collapsed theatrically into Julian's arms, smearing her foundation and lipstick across his shirt while she sobbed. His discomfort was obvious, yet he soothed her, eyes soft with. Watching them, I remembered, because Julian hated makeup, I'd gone barefaced for 6 years, our wedding day included. "Have you lost your mind?" he snarled. I smiled, savage. "I'm doing what a Sterling wife should do. The Sterlings don't let mistresses walk through the front door." Chapter 2. Julian never even glanced at the divorce papers. He told Victor to shred them. If he wouldn't let me go, I'd force his hand. No one knew better than I how to break him. I scattered every pair of shoes in the house, released a bag of live loach into the bathtub, splashed soup across the snow-white carpet. Within minutes the manor reeked of fish and grease. In the past Julian would have replaced every item, then soaked himself in disinfectant for 3 straight hours. I waited in the wrecked living room, certain he'd soon hand me the signed papers just to escape the filth. Midnight came and went, the front door never opened. My phone lit up, a photo from Julian's number, sent by Chloe. He sat on a plastic stool at a greasy street food stall, sharing a bowl of snail noodles with her. For me, he says he's willing to try. The year we married, I'd reeked of night market smoke and he'd vomited for hours. Since then I'd swallowed 6 years of bland, sauceless meals until the sight of chili oil turned my stomach. Turns out he could sit amid crushed napkins and bamboo skewers for Chloe. I stayed up until I had no tears left, then called HR at headquarters. As a board member, I want that receptionist dismissed, immediately. Silence hummed back. Sterling gave specific orders. No personnel move concerning Dawson can be executed without his personal approval. My fingers turned icy around the handset. Julian rang seconds later. Vivian, how long are you going to keep this up? What, a shareholder can't fire a receptionist now? Anyone but her. Reflect on yourself, Vivian. They were the ones cheating, yet I was the one who needed self-reflection. I'd never been the obedient type. At dawn I papered every corridor of the Sterling building with blown-up surveillance stills, their backseat makeout, their office grappling, the noodle stall feeding. By the time Julian arrived, the rumor mill had already combusted. I knew that intern was shady, seen them sneaking off together. Young, but she sure knows how to climb. So the great Sterling is just another jerk. I'd totally misread him. Isn't he supposed to be a germaphobe? Isn't he disgusted by dirt? Julian ripped the surveillance photos off the wall, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me. Vivian, you're no different from a raving madwoman right now. So even he realized how sordid this looked. If he knew, why do it in the first place? Everyone's gaze scraped across Chloe's face. She hid behind Julian, palms shielding her cheeks. Julian, I can't face anyone anymore. Let's break this off. I thought Julian would defend her, but he didn't. In front of the whole room he shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. His glare swept the hall, venomous. Had your fill? Effective immediately, Chloe is promoted to executive assistant with a 300% raise. She's under my protection. Anyone who breathes a word of gossip in this company can clean out their desk. No one dared speak, they still needed their paychecks, and nobody could afford to cross Julian. I had lost. The ending was exactly what Julian predicted. I became a deranged, powerless woman screaming in vain. When I stepped out of the building, Chloe, who'd been sobbing, unusually whispered in my ear, "Thank you. Otherwise Sterling might have kept me hidden forever." I drifted back to the most prestigious hospital in Riverdale. The psychology department was the only place in the world that still belonged to me. Sterling, my assistant stopped me. Nearby nurses were murmuring. Though I'd braced myself, the sight inside made my lungs seize. The sofa was slashed, bookcases toppled, shattered glass and files carpeting the floor. Once, because I worked here, Julian bought the entire hospital just to please me. Now, to punish my disobedience, he had trashed it with his own hands. I slowly knelt and began gathering the scattered patient charts. A familiar photo peeked out from beneath a folder. In it, Julian's eyes were hollow with terror, lips clamped tight. Back then his germophobia was so severe that if anyone came within 6 feet he'd scream. Even his parents planned to ship him overseas to waste away. For 2 years I treated him, rebuilt his basic social skills, and turned the brilliant wreck into the family's heir apparent. His parents immediately arranged our marriage. But why on earth should I be their sacrificial lamb for stability? Chapter 3. The chief of medicine summoned me. Although the specialists confirm you're fit to work, the hospital can't go head-to-head with Sterling. Take a paid suspension for now. I understood his dilemma. I didn't argue. I picked up my new prescription and went home. The moment I opened the door I saw a stranger's heels neatly lined in the shoe cabinet. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Per Julian's demands, only I and the scheduled cleaner had ever set foot in this matter, including our child. The first year of marriage I'd accidentally gotten pregnant. Julian absolutely forbade me to keep it. I can't stand the thought of something dripping amniotic fluid and blood in my house. You know I've always hated kids. Watching his breathing turn rapid and his body tremble, I tried to calm him, but in the struggle I tumbled down the stairs. The fetal heartbeat stopped, I hemorrhaged on the operating table and nearly died. After that, every monthly conjugal visit ended with him watching me swallow the morning after pills. Hearing the door, Chloe sauntered over, proudly stroking her flat belly. "Sis, I'm pregnant, as you probably know. I don't want my baby born a bastard." She leaned closer, tone light. "So, Vivian, you and I are actually on the same side. I want the throne, you want the divorce, mutual profit." I let out a cold laugh. "Wrong. I want the divorce, but that doesn't mean I'll crown you. A mistress is always just a mistress." Maybe my words stung Her smile vanished, replaced by fury. Who do you think you are? If you can't hold your man, don't blame me. You don't still believe Julian won't divorce you because he cares? He's just not ready yet. Men want babies with the woman they love. Your baby? He didn't want it even when it was inside you. She cackled while I froze. The Sterling family had buried the incident because it was my eternal scar, and an heir couldn't carry such scandal. Yet Julian had easily told this woman. While I stood dazed, my medicine vial slipped from my pocket. Chloe picked it up, scanned the label, and smirked harder. What be we hear? Aphrodisiacs? Still trying to seduce Julian? How pathetic, needing drugs to keep a man. Glaring, hatred surged beyond my control. I snapped the cap and shoved pills toward her mouth. These are morning after pills, tailor-made for you. You want a baby? Let's see if you can carry one. Her face drained, she thrashed wildly. Suddenly the door opened, and she broke free. Julian, she forced some pills into me. Our baby, my stomach hurts. Julian flung me to the floor. What did you do to her? Chloe sobbed hysterically. Only I knew she hadn't swallowed a single tablet. Julian spotted the scattered capsules and paled. 6 years of marriage had taught him what those were. Fluoxetine, contraindicated in pregnancy. He carried her to the bathroom and stuck his fingers down her throat. Vomit splashed over the immaculate marble. The man who once frowned if a straw end of my hair hit the floor now scooped filth from her mouth without disgust. After making sure she was safe, he emerged, eyes murderous. Vivian, you can't tolerate an innocent child? If I tolerate hers, who would have tolerated mine? I stared at the pills on the floor. Ironic, a psychologist afflicted with clinical depression. But I knew exactly what I was doing. I wasn't out of control, just filled with hate. Chapter 4. I sat limply on the bed, then instinctively remembered I hadn't changed into loungewear. Julian had conditioned me to anticipate his needs every second. Except, he wasn't afraid anymore, right? In a daze I noticed Julian enter. Seeing my clothes, he halted 2 meters away. So he was still afraid, except Chloe was always the exception. You're sick? Since when? Probably long ago, under his monthly interrogations and scouring showers. Under the grief of losing the baby. Under the helplessness of discovering his affair. I thought his question held a trace of concern, but he only added, your behavior just now has already disqualified you from being a doctor. Quit the job. You've always wanted a child, haven't it? I've thought it through, Chloe's baby. All you have to do is tell the press she's your distant cousin, pregnant out of wedlock. And that you're infertile, so you'll adopt her child and register it under our names. After that we'll live together, and you two will raise the child. My fists clenched so hard I wondered if I'd heard wrong. How could he shamelessly propose something so vile? What if I refuse? I bit the inside of my cheek until it bled. Vivian, can you be reasonable? That's my child too. I gave a cold laugh. Once we're divorced, she and her baby can be legitimate. Julian said nothing. After a long moment he sighed. If you don't agree, I'll have the hospital suspend your mother's treatment. Decide for yourself. Don't bother trying to reach my parents, they've gone on a meditation retreat. You won't be able to contact the Mom's kidney disease can be treated at only one hospital in the country. He was holding her life hostage. I gave in. On the day of the press conference I sat in the center seat. Below the stage the staff whispered. See? The wife still loses to the mistress. Where's that ferocity she showed at headquarters? Thought she was different, but she'll do anything for money. Who'd give up the title of Sterling Madam? Chloe sat beside me, her face full of contempt. After all this you're still clinging to the Sterling title. I'm ashamed to call myself a woman when I see how shameless you are. The press conference began. Julian slid a prepared statement in front of me and gave me an approving smile. Just read it. I picked up the paper. In front of every camera I tore it to shreds. Julian's face froze in shock. What are you doing? With a cold smile I pulled the microphone toward me. Friends of the media. The purpose of this press conference is to announce that Julian's and my marriage has hit a crisis. After discussion, we have decided to divorce. Chapter 5. My voice wasn't loud, yet the room fell silent. Seconds later the reporters exploded. What? I thought the mistress was being welcomed into the family. This isn't the story we were given, Sterling. Are you sure you and Sterling have agreed? Sterling, will you claim a share of the Sterling fortune? What impact will this have on the company? Flashbulbs popped as reporters surged forward. Chloe wore a triumphant smirk while Julian's face turned ashen. He rushed up, blocking the cameras, his eyes fierce. Vivian, who said you could spout nonsense? Have you forgotten your mother's still in the hospital? Just then a steady male voice rang from the doorway. Shut up. Chloe's smug smile stiffed, replaced by panic. Julian spun around to see his father Charles and mother Eleanor standing behind him, Adrian at their side. Julian was dumbstruck. Dad? Mom? Aren't you on a retreat? Eleanor didn't even glance at him, she walked straight to me. Good girl, we're late. Letting that wretch bully you, it's our fault. 6 years of pent-up grievances burst their dam. Mom, I sobbed too hard to speak, but I told the press nothing more. That was my bargaining chip with the Sterling family. They couldn't afford news that their heir had suffered severe mental illness. It would rock Sterling. Charles trembled with rage, raised his cane and smashed it across Julian's back. I'll beat you to death, you brute. Vivian was the best wife you could ever have. Julian didn't dare dodge, he took the blow. I seized the moment to pull out the divorce papers. Dad, Mom, Julian and I are finished. Let's sign the agreement here and now, in front of everyone. Charles was silent for a moment. Child, won't you reconsider? We promised to keep this scoundrel in line. I shook my head and held out the papers again. By the terms I would take everything that was Julian's, he would walk away penniless. The Sterling elders said nothing, protecting the company mattered more. Chloe bit her lip and hissed at me, making such a scene, it's his money you're after. I turned, smiled at her resentful face. Without me Julian is nothing, this is what I'm owed. You'd better worry about yourself. Speechless, Chloe grabbed Julian's arm and stroked her belly pitifully. Julian, sign it. Then our baby can be born with an honest name. Julian was the sole heir. Once she married into the family, temporary poverty meant nothing. Eleanor gave her an icy glance. Don't imagine you can enter my family just because Vivian is gone. Chloe was stunned. She clung to Julian's sleeve, sobbing, the way she always did, thinking that clutching him meant clutching everything. Yet Julian barely noticed. He only stared at me, panic flaring in his eyes for the first time. Vivian, is there no other way? I shook my head. Sign. Under his parents' pressure he numbly scrawled his name on the papers. Chapter 6. The pre-SS conference was forcibly ended. As I stepped outside Julian caught my wrist. He actually initiated contact, something he would never have done before, but so what? Now he was the one who disgusted me. I jerked free. His lips moved, and at last he said, Vivian, are we really over? I laughed scornfully and walked away. Over, of course he hoped so, but on whose terms? I sent a video from my phone, then smiled. With money I could transfer Mom to another hospital. Divorced, I no longer had to face Julian's coercion and betrayal. I was free. Yet why didn't I feel the slightest joy? Tears streamed down. I suddenly remembered I should take my medication today. But I had no strength. The world spun, my legs buckled, and I sank toward the ground. Before everything went black I seemed to hear someone calling, Sister-in-law, are you okay? When I woke I was in Riverdale, Adrian at my bedside. Sister-in-law, you're awake? Seeing me open my eyes, he brightened, his clear gaze sparkling. When he smiled he looked like a clean-cut college boy. I tugged the corner of my mouth, my voice still hoarse. Thank you, Adrian. And please don't call me sister-in-law anymore. He blinked, embarrassed. I blurted it in the rush. Can I call you Vivian from now on? I nodded. He cut the peeled apple into small pieces, skewered one with a toothpick, and held it out to me. I looked at him, and a wave of warmth flooded my heart. The day before the press conference, I had nowhere left to turn. Julian had threatened my mother's life. Clutching at my last straw, I called Adrian overseas. Adrian, can you help me reach your uncle and aunt? It's urgent. On the other end, he didn't ask why. He only said one thing. Wait for me. He flew home immediately and pulled every string to find Charles and Eleanor. He also dug through Chloe's life. That was how I managed, half in tears and half in negotiation, to persuade his parents to allow the divorce. They knew that over the years I had steadied their son and kept Julian in the chairman's seat. No matter what, they didn't want me gone. My gaze drifted to the pill bottle on the nightstand. Adrian followed my eyes, his smile dimmed. I asked the doctor. There for clinical depression. He lifted his head, his own eyes swimming with heartache and self-reproach. I'm sorry, I should have noticed earlier. How could I have been so blind, leaving you to suffer all alone? I shook my head. It's not your fault. You've been bouncing between overseas offices. You're back maybe once a year. How would you know? I looked at him calmly. Besides, I'm a doctor myself. I know my limits. Watching me fake strength, he parted his lips, then finally said nothing more. From that day on he never mentioned Julian again, never breathed a word about the Sterlings. He treated my illness as if it were the most important project of his life. He consulted top psychologists everywhere, jotting down every suggestion in his notes. Learning I loved crowds, he dragged me to the night market I hadn't dared enter for 6 years. Vivian, I remember you eating these the first time we met, try one. He handed me a box of takoyaki. This stall's decent, I've tried it. I smiled, though I no longer remembered when we'd first met. And this grilled cold noodle, boss, extra vinegar, extra chili. Every word, every move, was for me, terrified I might feel low. There had been a time when Julian vomited all night, calling me filthy, just because I'd paused at a street food stall and carried a whiff of smoke home. Now Adrian blew on the hottest grilled sausage again and again before gently offering it to my lips. He was all about companionship. He took me to the latest comedy, we laughed until we doubled over in the theater. He took me to the amusement park, rode the carousel, and bought me the biggest cotton candy. He took me up a mountain at sunrise, and when I shivered he slipped his coat over my shoulders. Look, the sun's rising. Everything bad will pass. Vivian, you will too. Perhaps because he's so perceptive, often he knows me better than I do myself. My clinical depression improved by the day, and my smiles grew more frequent. One afternoon he took leave to accompany me for my follow-up. When I came out with my prescription, he was clutching a huge bouquet of roses, looking nervous. Vivian, will you give me a chance? I've actually loved you for a long, long time. I stared into his clear, earnest eyes and saw my reflection inside them. I laughed. This time, from the heart. Yes. Julian stumbled home, the faint odor in the air making him frown. He glanced into the trash and disgust rippled across his face. He dialed the housekeeper in a panic. He remembered how, no matter how late he returned, I always had the place impeccable. Even the air carried his favorite fur scent. Sterile coveralls waited, bathwater set to exactly 108 degrees. But ever since he'd been caught with Chloe, the docile woman of 6 years had vanished. She'd retaliated in the cruelest way, erasing herself from his world overnight. She hadn't taken so much as a sock. Just then the door opened. Chloe breezed in, arms heavy with designer bags, triumph glittering in her eyes. Julian, look at my new purse, gorgeous, right? She dropped the shopping bags on the couch, plopped down, and tore into the packaging. Plastic and cardboard littered the floor, she didn't care. I'm exhausted from shopping. Julian, be sweet, pour me some water. For the first time Julian felt irritation at the fresh, coquettish woman before him. Ever since he'd shielded her in front of the staff, she'd turned into someone else. The intern who once wouldn't lift her eyes now strutted through Sterling ordering veterans around. Victor had warned him more than once that the company was sick of her. But he'd told himself she was young, spirited, what harm in a little entitlement? Restless, he opened his phone and found the surveillance video I'd sent. In the dim karaoke bow. Off the music pounded. Chloe, in a skimpy dress, was circling a group of men. One of them, his business rival, the greasy slob he'd complained about countless times, rested a paw on her thigh. Instead of recoiling, Chloe giggled, raised her glass, and leaned in. Eyes closed, she let those men paw her as she savored their attention. Ugh, Julian bolted to the bathroom and vomited until his stomach clenched. He felt viruses crawling over every inch of skin. Staring at his haggard reflection, he recalled Chloe's ecstatic face in the clip. A nausea he'd never known drilled straight into his soul. From that day Julian's germophobia exploded. He scrubbed his hands 20 times an hour, rubbing them raw with sanitizer. He forbade Chloe to touch him. If she stepped within 10 feet he recoiled like a scalded cat. At first Chloe thought he was sulking. She slipped into silk lingerie and tried her old tricks. Julian, what's wrong? You've been ignoring me. She reached for him, all soft temptation. Julian jumped back, terror flaring in his eyes. Don't come near me. Chloe's smile froze. She took another step. Julian seized the bottle of alcohol spray on the table and doused her head to toe. Get away. Stay back. Chloe coughed, tears streaming from the sting. Looking at the madman in front of her, she felt fear for the first time. Julian, what's happened to you? Julian pressed his lips tight and said nothing. He tried to tell himself that video showed Chloe's past, no big deal, she'd been scrubbed clean. But he wasn't ordinary, mentally, physically, he could not erase that scene. His condition deteriorated daily. He demanded the housekeeper wipe every surface of the mansion 3 times a day with disinfectant. The air always carried the sharp bite of disinfectant. Chloe, too, was ordered to wear no makeup, no perfume. She couldn't even eat anything with a strong odor. Yet even so, Julian no longer wanted to touch her. She couldn't take it anymore. In her eyes, Julian had more. fed from a fastidious, aloof CEO into a madman. She refused, absolutely refused, to serve such an emotionally unstable monster. But for the money, she endured. After all, once she gave birth to a sterling grandson, the family would have to acknowledge her. She decided that what she didn't see couldn't hurt her. Gradually, Chloe stopped showing up at Julian's house. Ever since the divorce, Julian had no heart for work. During a crucial cross-border meeting, he cracked. The moment the other CEO offered a handshake, he lost control, screamed, and clutched his head. A billion-dollar deal died on the spot. Sterling stock plummeted. The board convened an emergency session, and Charles had to amputate to save the body. After deliberation, Adrian was named interim CEO. Julian was placed on suspension. He locked himself inside the Sterling manor and withered with frightening speed. One day, Chloe came back to demand money from Julian. She pushed open the bathroom door and found him scrubbing his arms with a brush, frantic. His skin was already raw and bleeding, crimson mixed with suds pooled on the floor. Yet he seemed to feel no pain, muttering under his breath. Ugh! Chloe couldn't hold it in, terror made her vomit on the spot. Julian noticed and snapped. He shrieked like a lunatic and shoved her to the floor. Get out, you filthy woman! Out! Chloe's lower belly slammed against the sharp corner of the coffee table. Warm liquid trickled down her legs. Julian's first instinct wasn't to help, it was to roar for housekeeping to sanitize the mess. Watching the maniac scrubbing the floor with disinfectant, her heart turned to ash. She hauled herself upright and, with every ounce of strength, slapped him. Julian! You psycho! I have no idea how Vivian ever put up with you. You deserve to die. The ambulance arrived in time, but the baby couldn't be saved. Julian's second child was lost for the same reason as the first. Chapter 9. Chloe lay in a hospital bed after surgery. Julian never showed once. She gave up on him completely. The cleaning crew fled, terrified by his deranged demands and madness. Charles and Eleanor ached for their son, but one look from Julian drove them out. The vast manor held only Julian, alone. He huddled in a corner and suddenly realized, he felt nothing for Chloe, not a flicker. Over and over, his mind replayed images of me. He remembered 6 years of my devoted care. He remembered the patience with which I'd coaxed him out of the darkness. All he had ever given me in return was oppression and betrayal. He couldn't understand why he had treated me that way. Then he recalled the moment his parents proposed the marriage. A strange feeling had taken root. He became convinced I had cured him only to become Sterling. He decided our love was tainted. Yet without Chloe, none of this would have happened. He hated her. The admiration blazing in that woman's eyes had persuaded him once more that Vivian and he had been nothing but doctor and patient. But he overlooked a simple truth: an ordinary doctor wouldn't risk being bitten to drag him from the abyss. An ordinary doctor wouldn't spend years tailoring every moment to a patient's fragile psyche. When he finally asked his parents, he learned I had long held an invitation from a renowned foreign clinic. Millions a year, and I had stayed only because his parents begged. By the time he understood, it was too late. For 6 years he had tormented the woman he loved, and now he had killed their child. Even after learning I had sunk into clinical depression because of him, he had looked away. He ground his teeth and stubbornly heaped every ounce of blame onto Chloe. He pulled strings to have her driven out of Riverdale, blacklisted her from every job, condemned her to eternal ruin. When it was done, he bolted from the manor like a madman. He found my apartment complex. From afar he saw me. I was strolling in the garden below with Adrian. I wore a loose sweater, utterly relaxed. Adrian steadied me with careful hands. We laughed as we walked. The scene glowed with warmth that stabbed his eyes. He rushed over, shouting, "Vivian!" Adrian and I turned together. The instant I saw him, my smile vanished. Adrian instinctively stepped in front of me, eyes wary. "Julian, what do you want?" Julian ignored him. Meeting my frightened gaze, he suddenly recalled forcing me into the bathroom, scrubbing my skin. An invisible fist clamped his heart. He dropped to his knees with a thud. "Vivian, I'm sorry." Tears and snot ran down his face, his overscrubbed flesh looked horrifying. "I know I treated you terribly. I was scum, I was less than human. It's all my fault, I didn't know how to cherish you. Can you give me one more chance? Please, I'm begging you, save me." He babbled, wept, pleaded. I listened in silence, then took Adrian's hand. "Julian, we ended long ago. As for saving you, I already did that once. But you're not worth it, and I won't make the same mistake twice." I turned away with Adrian and left. Julian slumped against the wall, voiceless. Later I heard he had lost his mind completely. The Sterlings committed him to a psychiatric facility for compulsory treatment. A year afterward, Adrian and I were married. He officially took the helm of Sterling, becoming the family's new patriarch. Victor became his assistant. Adrian joked, "You once saved his kid sister from suicide, he owes you, and now he can keep an eye on me." I couldn't help laughing. With his love and companionship, my clinical depression lifted entirely. I returned to work and reopened my own therapy practice. In the second year of our marriage, I became pregnant. In the dim ultrasound room, I stared at the tiny life on the screen, felt its strong heartbeat, and tears rolled down. Adrian squeezed my hand and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. I leaned against him, quietly savoring the happiness that, 6 years late, had finally arrived. Thank you for listening to our story today. If you liked it, please like and share with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wonderful stories. See you next time.